Imagine this. You have just landed in the United States after visiting your family overseas. You are tired, but relieved to finally be home. You collect your luggage, walk toward passport control, and hand your green card to the CBP officer. Everything feels routine. Then the officer looks at the computer screen, pauses for a moment, and calmly says, "Please come with me." Your heart starts racing. You have lived in America for years. You pay taxes. You have never been arrested. You have a valid green card. So why are you suddenly being escorted into secondary inspection? You sit in a waiting room, watching other travelers leave while you remain behind. Minutes turn into an hour. Then another. Questions begin. How long were you outside the United States? Where do you actually live? What do you do for work? Can we take another look at your travel history? At that moment, one thought keeps running through your mind. Did I do something wrong? For thousands of lawful permanent residents, this is no longer just a hypothetical situation. Across airports and border crossings, inspections have become more detailed, technology has become more advanced, and officers now have access to far more information than they did only a few years ago. But here is what most people still do not realize. Your green card alone does not guarantee that your trip back into the United States will be quick and stress-free. In 2026, even experienced travelers are finding themselves facing questions they never expected. In many cases, the issue is not criminal activity or immigration fraud. It is simply a misunderstanding of how today's border enforcement works. That is exactly why this video matters. Over the next few minutes, I am going to walk you through the 3 biggest travel rules every green card holder needs to understand before leaving the United States. These are not internet rumors or social media myths. They are based on how border inspections and immigration enforcement are currently being carried out by agencies such as the Department of Homeland Security, United States Customs and Border Protection, and USCIS. More importantly, I will show you how to protect yourself before your next trip, because a few minutes of preparation today could save you hours of stress at the airport tomorrow. And trust me, the first rule catches more green card holders by surprise than any other. Most people think it is just about having a valid green card in their wallet. It is not. Today, your face has become part of your travel documents. Beginning in late 2025 and continuing through 2026, the Department of Homeland Security expanded biometric screening for non-United States citizens entering and leaving the country. That includes lawful permanent residents. Every time you arrive at many airports, seaports, land border crossings, or certain pre-clearance locations, CBP may photograph your face. Within seconds, advanced facial recognition systems compare that image against multiple government databases. For many travelers, the entire process is over before they even notice it. But those few seconds can determine what happens next. This is where many people misunderstand how the system works. The camera is not simply checking whether the person standing in front of the officer matches the photo on a green card. It is doing much more than that. The system compares your current appearance with your immigration records, previous border crossings, passport information, travel history, and other government databases almost instantly. If something does not match exactly, the system may flag your record for additional review. That does not automatically mean you have done anything wrong. But it does mean your inspection may suddenly become much longer. Imagine renewing your green card after changing your legal name, but one older government record was never updated. Imagine replacing your passport after it expired, but your previous travel history still contains inconsistent information. Imagine an old travel record containing a simple administrative error that you never even knew existed. Any one of these situations could trigger additional questions. And once you are referred to secondary inspection, officers have more time to review your documents, verify your identity, and ask detailed questions about your immigration history. For some travelers, that process lasts only a few minutes. For others, it can mean missing a connecting flight, waiting for several hours, or explaining information they never expected to discuss. The important thing to understand is this. Secondary inspection is not a punishment. It is an investigation to make sure everything matches before you are admitted into the country. The good news is that many of these delays can be avoided. Before you travel, carefully review every document connected to your immigration status. Make sure your green card is valid. Confirm that your passport information is current. If you recently changed your name, renewed your green card, or updated your address with USCIS, make sure those changes have been properly reflected in your official records. Never assume that because your last trip went smoothly, your next one will be exactly the same. Border technology continues to evolve, and systems today are far more connected than they were only a few years ago. But while biometric screening has surprised many returning travelers, the second rule has placed some green card holders in far greater danger without them realizing it. And the biggest mistake often happens before they even board the airplane. The second rule is the one that worries immigration attorneys the most, because it affects people who honestly believe they have followed every rule. Let me explain. Imagine a man named David. He has been a lawful permanent resident for almost 10 years. Every year, he travels overseas to care for his elderly parents. Each trip lasts about 5 months. He always returns before 6 months because someone once told him, as long as you're back within 6 months, you'll be fine. 4 years, nothing happened. Then one day, after landing in the United States, a CBP officer asked him a question he never expected. "Sir, where do you actually live?" At first, the question seemed strange. David answered confidently, "California." But the officer kept asking more questions. "When was the last time you worked in the United States? How much time have you actually spent here over the past 2 years? Do you still have a permanent home? What taxes have you filed?" Within minutes, David realized something important. The officer was not interested in the length of his latest trip. The officer was trying to determine whether the United States was still his permanent home. This is exactly where many green card holders become confused. For years, people have talked about the so-called 6-month rule as if it were the only thing that mattered. It is not. The amount of time you spend outside the United States is certainly important, but it is only one part of a much bigger picture. United States immigration law expects lawful permanent residents to actually live permanently in the United States. Your green card is evidence of that commitment. It is not simply a travel pass that allows unlimited international trips. In 2026, CBP officers are taking a much closer look at a traveler's overall pattern, not just one individual trip. This means they may review how often you travel overseas, how much time you spend outside the country, whether your employment is based in America, where your immediate family lives, whether you continue filing United States taxes as a resident, whether you maintain a home, and whether your daily life still appears to be centered inside the United States. Think about that for a moment. Someone who spends 4 or 5 months abroad every year may never violate a specific time limit. But if they spend more time living overseas than living in America year after year, officers may begin asking an important question. Has this person quietly moved their permanent residence somewhere else? That single question can completely change the inspection. And this is where preparation becomes incredibly important. Many people panic because they assume they must immediately prove everything from memory. You don't. Instead, let your documents tell your story. Carry evidence showing that your life remains established in the United States. Recent tax returns. A current lease or mortgage statement. Utility bills. Employment verification. Recent pay stubs. Bank statements. Health insurance records. School records if your children attend school in the United States. These documents create a clear picture. They show that your home is still America, even if you temporarily traveled abroad. Now let's talk about another situation that catches many families completely off guard. Sometimes life happens. A parent becomes seriously ill. A business assignment is unexpectedly extended. A medical emergency keeps you overseas much longer than planned. These situations are understandable. But immigration officers still evaluate your residency under the law. If you already know before leaving that your trip may last a long time, there is an important step you should consider. Apply for Form I-131, commonly known as a re-entry permit, before leaving the United States. This document can help demonstrate that your extended trip is temporary and that you intend to return and continue living in America. But here is the part many travelers discover too late. You generally must file the application while you are physically inside the United States. Waiting until you are already overseas is often too late. Processing also takes time. That is why planning ahead is so important. Now I want to talk about something that almost no one expects to hear at the airport. Imagine sitting across from a border officer after a long flight. The officer places a document on the desk. Then says something like, "If you sign here, this process will be much easier." Most people are exhausted. They simply want to go home. But this small piece of paper can carry enormous consequences. The document is called Form I-407. It is used to voluntarily give up lawful permanent resident status. Notice one very important word. Voluntarily. If you sign that form, you are choosing to surrender your green card. Many travelers mistakenly believe they have no choice. That is not necessarily true. If there is a genuine dispute about whether you abandoned your permanent residence, an immigration judge, not simply a border inspection, ultimately decides that legal question through the proper process. That is why you should never sign documents affecting your immigration status unless you fully understand what they mean. If you are confused, remain calm. Ask respectful questions. Seek legal advice whenever appropriate before making an irreversible decision. Remember, a difficult inspection does not automatically mean you will lose your green card. Many travelers answer questions, provide additional documents, and are admitted without further problems. Preparation, not panic, is your greatest protection. But if you think these first two rules are important, wait until you hear the third one. Because it involves something almost every green card holder carries through airport security without giving it a second thought. Their smartphone. The third rule may be the most surprising of all because it has very little to do with your passport, your green card, or even the length of your trip. Instead, it involves something almost every traveler carries with them every single day. Their smartphone. Think about everything your phone contains. Your travel history. Your emails. Your text messages. Your social media accounts. Your banking apps. Family photographs. Work conversations. Flight confirmations. Hotel reservations. In many ways, your phone tells the story of your life. Now imagine standing at a United States airport after a long international flight. A CBP officer finishes checking your passport, looks up, and politely says, "May I take a look at your phone?" For many travelers, that simple request comes as a complete surprise. Most people immediately wonder, can they really do that? The answer is more complicated than most people realize. Under long-standing Border Search Authority, CBP officers may conduct certain inspections of electronic devices at ports of entry. While not every traveler experiences this, electronic device inspections remain a lawful part of border security under specific policies and procedures. That does not mean every green card holder will have their phone searched. Far from it. Millions of lawful permanent residents enter the United States every year without any additional inspection. But if you are selected for additional screening, your electronic devices could become part of that review. This is where many travelers become nervous. Not because they have done anything illegal, but because their phones contain years of personal information. Messages, photographs, business conversations, travel plans, personal memories. Even if everything on your phone is completely innocent, being asked questions about it can still feel stressful. And stress often causes people to make mistakes. They forget dates. They give unclear answers. Or they accidentally contradict something they said only a few minutes earlier. That is why preparation begins long before you reach the airport. One of the smartest things you can do before traveling is simply make sure your information is organized and consistent. If your travel plans match your employment. If your address matches your official records. If your public information accurately reflects your situation. Answering questions becomes much easier. Another important point involves social media. Today, many people publicly share where they travel, where they work, and where they spend most of their time. Sometimes those posts unintentionally create a very different picture from the one presented during an immigration inspection. For example, imagine someone tells an officer they live permanently in the United States. But their public social media shows months of posts suggesting they have been living and working overseas. Even if there is a reasonable explanation, those differences may lead to additional questions. This does not mean you should stop using social media. It simply means you should be thoughtful. Make sure your public information accurately reflects your actual circumstances. Honesty and consistency remain your strongest protection. Now let me say something that every green card holder needs to hear. If you are referred to secondary inspection, do not panic. Being sent to secondary inspection does not automatically mean you are in trouble. It does not automatically mean your green card will be taken away. And it certainly does not mean you will be denied entry. For many travelers, it simply means officers need additional time to verify information before completing the inspection. Stay calm. Listen carefully. Answer every question honestly. Provide documents if they are requested. If you do not understand something, politely ask for clarification. And if you are ever presented with paperwork that could affect your immigration status, take the time to understand exactly what you are signing. If appropriate, request the opportunity to seek legal advice before making an important decision. Remember: professional, respectful, truthful. Those three words can make an enormous difference during any immigration inspection. Now, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. The first rule showed us that modern biometric technology allows border officers to verify your identity faster and more thoroughly than ever before. The second rule reminded us that a green card is not simply permission to travel. It represents your commitment to make the United States your permanent home. And the third rule demonstrated how technology and digital information have become an increasingly important part of modern border inspections. None of these rules are meant to frighten you. They are meant to prepare you. Because the overwhelming majority of lawful permanent residents return home successfully every single day. The difference is preparation. Before your next international trip, remember these 3 simple steps. First, keep all of your immigration documents accurate and up to date. Second, maintain strong evidence that your permanent home remains in the United States. And third, travel with confidence, honesty, and a clear understanding of your rights and responsibilities. Those 3 habits alone can help prevent many of the problems that catch travelers completely by surprise. Your green card represents far more than legal status. It represents years of sacrifice, years of waiting, years of building a career, supporting your family, creating opportunities, and building a future in the United States. Protect it with the same care and commitment that it took to earn it. One final reminder before we finish. Immigration policies, enforcement priorities, and travel procedures can change over time. Before every international trip, always check the latest guidance published by CBP and USCIS, especially if your travel involves unusual circumstances or an extended stay outside the country. And if your situation is complex, consulting a qualified immigration attorney before you travel can provide valuable peace of mind. If you found this video helpful, please take just a second to press the like button. It helps more immigrants and green card holders discover accurate information when they need it most. Share this video with your family, friends, coworkers, or anyone who plans to travel internationally with a green card. One simple share could save someone from a stressful experience at the airport. And if you want trusted immigration news, practical travel guidance, and easy-to-understand updates about green cards, visas, USCIS, and CBP, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. The rules continue to evolve, and our goal is simple: to help you stay informed, stay prepared, and protect the future you have worked so hard to build. Thank you so much for watching. Travel safely. Protect your status. And I'll see you in the next video.